So here I am with two talented young writer, Endicott College, Ibison Street Press, Young Writers Series authors, Megan Hemenway and George Rosatone. The Young Writers Series started back in 2003, I believe. And Dan Sklar, professor at Endicott College, and myself started the idea, and now Emily Pinnell, who's a former student at Endicott, is the director of the series, and we've published a nice number of titles, and the two most recent ones happen to be by Megan Hemingway and George Rosatone. Now, Megan Hemingway has a book, Pity Party, and Susan Tepper, a well-known novelist in New York, say the interplay of darkness and light infuses this tender collection of poems. It brought to mind the novel A Pagan Place by Edna O'Brien, for both works share the rush of intimate immediacy. Hemingway's fragmented poetic narratives feel deeper than dreams. So I was going to ask you, Megan, right? Tell me about the germ of the idea for this book, some of the process that you went through, any influences of other poets or whatever.
Sure.
Before you start reading.
So the whole idea of Pity Party is sort of a culmination of how my writing is. I feel like I try to put all of my emotions in there in a very confessional way, and so a lot of time I think being a teenager is just throwing a pity party for yourself and being like, oh, my life's so hard and everyone hates me and everything sucks and I'm just gonna feel bad for myself. And that's
you don't
what
you don't have to be a teenager for that.
Yeah, I mean that could be anyone, you know.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was kind of the whole idea I had, because a lot of my poetry was in my darkest, most emotional moments, was writing them out, and so it was a lot of just like feeling bad for myself. But I kind of wanted to turn it on its head and be more of like an ironic, oh well, you're invited to my pity party.
Now, Pity Party, I saw it was on some video or something. Was there a song, Pity Party, or anything?
Yeah, there is a song. I think it's by Melanie Martinez or something.
Yeah.
I've never actually heard it, I don't think. But when I was doing the cover for the book, I was looking at that music video to see if I could get some sort of inspiration for that. Like the whole idea of like a birthday cake that's kind of smashed and like a party that no one attends, really.
So you've read a lot of poets in your course of study. Any poets that have influenced you?
So in class we talked a lot about Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton and their confessional poetry, and I feel like I related to that a lot of writing things about yourself and about your emotions and like really putting yourself out there and making yourself vulnerable. So I'm influenced by that, I think.
So maybe you can read a selection of poems for us that you've selected.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So this first one I'm going to read is called Father. Okay. Father, your feet hit the asphalt 45 years ago and counting, pounding rubber soles to dust to catch those neighborhood boys. They were your family then, boyish bear cubs of spit and blood. Beacon Street raised fighters, nothing less. You were David, pesky bully to that adult Goliath. You threw your wildness into punches on the playground, taking names like John Wayne with Little Sister, the Indian sidekick, but back to Mama's boy by dinner time. Drum sets and baseball bats, St. Pat's and Sunday dinner. Feral little boy never believed he was caged till the firstborn ditched home in a cloud of quiet dust. Oh, father, youngest son of 4 is never the hero, so you keep on running, playing bloody knuckles till Rich's dad, Rob's dad, your dad scares you shitless so the fun's over. Tomorrow the streets will wrap you in their arms again with brown hair sticking out the top and dirt on your dungarees, calling your name, hoping you'll never grow up.
Nice. Where did your father grow up?
So he grew up in Stoneham, Massachusetts, which is like a couple towns over from where I live now.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so he had 7 siblings. So his whole childhood, I feel like, is very vivid to me. A lot
Okay.
of stories.
You brought it out vividly. You brought it out vividly.
Very appropriate for today. Good choice.
So the next one I have is called Ode to Teenage Boys. Swish, swish. Look at him go. 6 foot, razor sharp jaw, baby blue eyes, douchebag. But he doesn't know that. His walk does, though. Nike clad, sauntering towards victory, once stood from Olympus and watched man run, thinking, I am above. There he goes, swish, swish. Watch his shark-toothed grin, a gaping wide chasm seeping with lust and fear and arrogance. He can't bear it, but his eyes can. Brows bleed low over that lightning in his pupils, palms stretched out, shooting light, daring you to question his worth. Look at him go. Swish, swish. His voice explodes like gunfire. A harsh general leads his lonely troops to battle. He's sadistic. He's oblivious on his pedestal. But the rest of us aren't. He opens the door and sticks out his hand, but avoids my eyes like he might a beggar on the street. Swish, swish. There he goes. Blackened, brilliant, bloody boys. They walk through the fire, but don't bother putting it out.
What do you think of that, George?
That's a great last line. Like,
Yeah.
I totally,
Nothing.
you killed it there. Yeah, it's very accurate. I mean, as a former teenage boy, I can relate to a lot of it. So
Boys, you know.
you did your research.
All right. I have here a poem called Crush Girl. A pretty thing, that purple hair and Cleopatra eyes, that pixie girl, party girl, crooked smile, and a wicked personality. Sings in the car, midnight eyebrows and a tiny nose ring, borrowing your favorite coat, give a kiss to the frosty air. Running wild, frantic, friends hate her, she's bad for you, even worse for you, heart beating loud, beating purple. Thinking you're in love with her, floating on her smoke, yet her heart is on the open road, hidden in a raspy tone, loaned but never yours. A pretty thing, that purple hair and Cleopatra eyes, just the kind for that green-hearted crush girl.
Nice. Vivid. Vivid.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of good colors in that.
Thanks. That one is about a friend I have who seems to fall in love with everyone she ever meets.
We all had friends like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we are the
Very
friends like
much.
that.
Oh, we are the people like that. Yeah.
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 All right, let's do this one. This is called Coping, a 3-part opera.
Three-part
Prologue. Flying down on razor-sharp strings, the puppet boy sang into his dance. Act 1. Last night I dreamt of you, words fabricated and unspoken, line by line, you played your part. They never tell you how that blood-red ache runs deep, squeezes your heart till air is useless. A shell in the dark, I realize your faults and curl around them like a cat lazing in the sun. Act 2. My pain is a cycle, sudsy clothes tossed around and around, black seeping into white. Happiness isn't woven into our genes, but sadness can be, watery sorrow racing and weighing us down. I fear I've given too much, love lost like heat from someone's skin, reaching for something not there. Act 3. But light pierces the dark and changes broken people like the wind picking up, dirty snow melting away. Time heals bloody cuts and purple sky bruises, makes you forget, contradicts, stare at yourself until you're unfamiliar. 7 years of bad luck only last 7 years, and the puppet keeps on dancing until he doesn't anymore. Epilogue. Lights down on the shadow with bloody black fists, she decided to fight another day.
Well, your poems are operatic. I mean, in terms of there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
Screaming
Exactly.
kind of.
It's all a drama.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I have 2 more.
And you're an actor, right?
I am.
Yeah, so
Theater,
fits.
so.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all about the drama. It makes life interesting.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, so this one is called Penance. I must be made to pay 18 years summed up to this acid rain upon my conscience, melting down my skin like wax until I'm cracked marble brilliance. Scratchy Elvis record in the attic, favorite loose thread sweater coming apart. They never tell you about the pain, the nightmare of a chasm heart, sucking everything in like a possessed vacuum cleaner. 2 weeks is 2 years in love time. Hundreds of yearning dreams in those wretched mornings where I sink through the mattress and straight into hell for a dinner date. My brain must be shattered, or maybe working just right to write a script in blood. Word for word betrayal of my trust, arms wide open for a me who can't call tomorrow morning. Even shifting kaleidoscope view is better than empty messages. Forget my brain, my heart is black. Now the door is locked, sure, but only because love and loneliness are siblings, swooping after each other like birds through the trees. Others may escape, but I certainly haven't and never will. Call me a pessimist, but for now I am alone here. A floating iceberg down with the fish, taking hits and refreezing again and again, until someone crashes into me completely.
Tell me, how does you as a poet, how does it feel now and during this pandemic thing where you're sort of in a state of limbo? How you've been dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance of both not having any inspiration because I'm in the house all this time, but
Yeah,
also being full of inspiration because I'm filled with all my thoughts.
yeah, yeah,
So it's like trying to find the positive aspects that I can create, sitting in my yard and
yeah.
watching birds fly in the trees and the breeze and trying to make nice images out of that. And then also kind of laying in bed too long and being with myself for too long and then creating those kinds of dramatic, dark moments.
Okay, all right. You want to read any more, or
Sure, I have one last one. It's a
okay,
short, very last poem.
all right.
So this one is called Skating Backwards. The air is white as the ice and stale as cigarette breath as we loop around the rink. Bundled in 5 layers of pink and pint-sized hockey skates, I'm quick as a hummingbird's wings. Stiff blue jeans glide on experienced feet on years of pond skating, hockey stick leaning. Throbbing ankles in a fateful fall, laps tallied in a mental mind game, you hold my hands and skate backwards. Speeding around, cold slices my eyes, but there's no crying on the ice, only the victory of an hour on my feet. Loping, whooping, and weaving, never knowing how to stop and wishing there was a point to the endless circle. Every Sunday you laced up my skates and sent me on my private course, but happily returned, arms outstretched, always skating backwards.
Well, thank you very much, Megan. And that's Pity Party by Megan Hemingway. And, you have to live up to that last name, although I know it's spelled, Hemingway spelled a little different. But now we have crowd surfing, which is kind of not a very pandemic title, is it? Crowd surfing.
No, not at all.
And this is by George Rosatone. And he was you were in my introduction, Megan, but George was in my advanced poetry seminar. And Dennis Daly said of his book, who's a poet, well-known poet, like the stash plunderage of a bank robbery, George Rosatone's poetry exhilarates the eyes, electrifies the touch, and promises a future of errant but extraordinary success. You agree with that?
Kind of. I hope so. I mean, I don't want to go against the prophesizing of extraordinary success, but I can hope. So.
Yeah, we can hope, right? Well, yeah. Why don't you lay some? First, let's ask you about your process and the poets that influenced you and all that.
My two biggest influences would probably be Bukowski and Edgar Allan Poe.
And who?
I know they're Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, Edgar Allan Poe. Okay.
Yeah,
they're very vastly different.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I like Bukowski's language, how it's not very poetic at all, but at the same time, I like Poe's abstractness, like the horror side, the mythical side, the Gothic mixed with Bukowski's simple language has always appealed to me.
So you have a decidedly different style from Megan, right? I would think.
Yeah.
Which is neither good or bad. I'm just saying that's probably, and that's good that we have a variety of poetic forms here. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe you want to read from your work.
Sure. The first one is called Contortion.
Okay.
A long one. I am being punished today. I've sinned, cursed, and expressed myself in every which way. In my defense, I was simply molding myself into who I wanted to be. As punishment, I must walk the long hallway. At least that's what they call it. Some have given it names such as the shapeshifter or the contortionist. I believe these sound too human. The hallway is quite a marvel indeed. It is exactly what it sounds like, a long, dark hallway. It vaguely resembles the shape of a human, provided one spreads their arms and legs a bit while walking. It's not a perfect resemblance, but that doesn't really matter in the end. If one is too large for the hallway, they are simply hung. Knowing this, most prisoners gorge themselves prior to execution, but stray rats and prayer only get you so far, so I saw no point in trying. I've known about the hallway all my life. As a child, I feared it. As I grew older, I saw it as inevitable. Our civilization has become obsessed with the hallway. Found in a cave not too far from the town near the top of a mountain, it has done naught but fascinate. None know for sure if it is man-made or a practical joke from God himself. It's too effective for natural causes, but far too sadistic for human intervention. See, the hallway consists of an incline, a downward incline so steep a naked man could not return unassisted. This is where the punishment aspect resides. As the hallway falls, its originally human shape becomes more contorted, unnatural. This is common knowledge. What is also common knowledge is that the hallway is not particularly as long as it may seem. There is an end, a hole dug out on the other side of the mountain, a hole that no human can fit into. However, those who have accepted their fate the quickest have emerged from this hole, survivors, if you would consider them so. They are broken, twisted into an unnatural shape, exposed bone to prove their body's resistance. Although conscious, they are lost from us. Their throats, now turned and knotted, can, at best, produce a whistle, at worst, a gargle. The extent of their movement is the soft rising of flesh amidst the mass of hair, bone, and skin, perhaps from whichever lung is yet to be punctured. These masses of human anatomy are easier to control, easy to not worry about, thus making the transformation a perfect punishment for those who do not follow orders. Soon I will be forced to transform, but frankly, I don't see the difference.
So tell me about this poem.
This is probably the most political thing I've ever gone for.
Is it a poem or is it a short story almost? Like a little.
It's like a long poem. Like the lines are in poetic form, but it is like the length of a short story. But I really wanted to play with the idea of a society forcing people into a certain state where all personality and all ability to express yourself is gone. And I wanted to do that in a very literal way with like the body horror aspect, you know, by turning these people into these clumps of just like meat and bone, like they are useless. You know, they can't talk, they can't move on their own. They're super easy to control, super easy to be told what to do, of what they can do. And I also went really far with like the gore side of it because I wanted the disgust of the body horror to kind of reflect the disgust you may feel watching people in a society just be turned into these robots that have no motor function or creative aspect of their own.
Much like what's going on now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. That's part of the reason why I chose it. So.
Okay.
I have another one that's much happier, I promise.
All right. No, I don't care. You know me, I'm the master of misery.
I like that. That's cool. This one's called Perfect Fit. It takes forever to put together 1,000 pieces. You leave me sleepless, covered in sheepskin, you're soft to the touch. Numbered and broken-hearted, we've locked ourselves in funeral homes, whispering sweet nothings to the dearly departed. Not everything locks the first try. That's why it takes time. Trial and error is a bitch, I know, but it's how we survive. So hurry up, sheepskin, let's get out of our heads. We'll forget about our numbers and stop talking to the dead. I haven't found the right place. If it exists, then we'll see. Just rest your head on my shoulder because it fits perfectly.
Sort of a love poem with sort of grave undertones, right? In some ways.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to play
Do you
with the
often
idea
take
of, like,
do you often take female friends out to the graveyard or anything like that?
No, but I should. That sounds fun. I've always had trouble with the idea of like people in a relationship or forming a relationship taking a lot of baggage from previous experiences with them. And so again, I wanted to make that quite literally by saying like talking to the dead or like dating in a funeral home, kind of, because you're surrounded by all these like past experiences, which have shaped you for sure, but they're gone, and working to move on from that.
Right, that's tough when you carry baggage from past relationships and trying to move on. That's good. So the graveyard, the ghosts that are talking to you, past girlfriends, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, George, go on.
All right. This one is called Concealment Feeds the Fear. Stuck in the dark, I can barely even read what I am writing. The light I need to fully understand my thoughts would disturb those around me, as usual. The sun, my son, nowhere to be seen, offers no light or warmth in this moment as it knows that I need it most. If these walls were padded, I would officially be a psychopath. Instead, I am left with just the concrete. The clock, forever visible and ticking even through the darkness, is my only way out. Sometimes I want to leave, sometimes I don't. Nevertheless, the clock ticks on. I want to be held, seen, heard more than anything right now. If I could so much as see the tips of my fingers, I would hold myself.
It's very, yeah, I would hold myself, tips of my fingers, I would hold myself. Yeah, it seems like your poems are like sort of a cry in the dark, kind of, in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote this one, I remember distinctly writing it at 4 a.m. in the
Oh,
dorm.
yeah.
And
Well, they
so
say
that was
3
a lot.
a.m. is the dark night of the soul, but 4 a.m. I guess also. If you're up, I wake up at 3 or 4 every morning. That's when I'm most creative, from like 3 to 6. I don't know about you. You were early.
I'm usually not up at that time, but if I am, then something good's gonna come of it. So,
How about you, Megan?
I'm never up at that time, but
Oh, okay.
I agree. I think late night is probably a more creative time.
It all depends on, what your head's into. Yeah.
I think it depends on how you're feeling.
Yeah. Right. But there's something
yeah.
about 3 a.m. is sort of, like twilight zone-y, it's like
Yeah.
between dead of night and the morning. I don't know. But anyway,
It's very lonely. I don't think I've ever been with another person at 3 a.m. before.
you never been what?
I mean, I've never been like with another person at 3 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Like everyone's usually asleep or I'm by myself somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why it's such a weird time for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
This one is called crowd surfing.
What's that?
This one is called crowd surfing.
Oh, crowd surfing, the title poem.
Yeah.
By the way, what is crowd surfing? The term, what does that mean?
So, you ever see like a rock star at a concert jump into the crowd and the crowd kind of like carries them back and then throws them back on stage?
Yeah.
So that's what crowd surfing is. I chose that for a couple reasons. First of all, I've always had trouble finding like my group, like my friend group. And I've always just like skimmed the surface of all these different types of groups and trying to find where I fit. Like I've hung out with theater kids, I've hung out with gangbangers, I've hung out with math kids, like everything. And I've yet to find
math kids, what'd you say?
Yeah, like math kids. Like,
what are math kids?
Kids who are really good at math.
Oh, math. I think you said masks. No,
oh, no.
I'm sorry.
I mean that too. That too. But yeah, so I just always feel like I'm like on the top of these crowds, never really integrating myself into these crowds of people, and I'm still just kind of surfing around waiting to find my crowd.
Well, sorry, life is like a buffet anyway. You want to taste a little of everything, right?
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this one's called crowd surfing. What do you call it when you blindly jump into the hands of others? What do you call it? That safe, relaxing feeling when you realize your weight is being carried for you. What do you call it? That lack of control, the inability to steer yourself where you want to go. What do you call it? The sacrifice pride so filling you become too heavy to hold. What do you call it? That fear of being dropped, snatched, stolen, stepped on, broken. What do you call it? That desire to carry your own weight again. What do you call it? That brief relapse of confidence when you're thrown back on stage, when you're left standing on your own 2 feet, when you face the many hands you've passed through. What do you say?
Thank you both for joining us. I hope we'll be back at Endicott College in some form. I mean, they're saying right now that we're going to be physically there, but we'll see what happens. Depends on what happens. But anyway, we talked to George Rosatone with his book, Crowd Surfing, and Megan Hemenway from Pity Party. Thank you both for joining me on Poet to Poet, Writer to Writer. Thanks again.
Thank